Okay, so before I start talking about this beauty, I thought I'd get some stuff out of the way first. So yes, this is my first video, so please excuse my lack of experience and my weird voice. I hate my voice. Second, this video at least expects the viewer to be familiar with Dark Souls, but I'm sure most people are, so that shouldn't be a problem. And third, this is not really a review in the traditional sense, where one gives out a score at the end and recommends the game or not to people. That isn't the objective of this video, because let's get this out of the way. Bloodborne is one of my favorite games of all time, and I would absolutely recommend it to almost anyone. I believe Bloodborne is a modern classic. It deserves to be looked at as one of the best games to date. And since as of the time of this recording, it's October 30th, I decided to start with something, spooky, and go with Bloodborne. So with that out of the way, let's just get into it. So, Dark Souls, you have all either played it or you don't plan to ever touch that game in your life, but we all know it. And let me be clear before you get any wrong ideas, I am grateful to Dark Souls for showing people that hard games still have an audience. But every time I pick it up, I played for like 40 hours, I realize I'm not having any fun, 2 months go by, and I give it another shot, now using a different build or weapon, but I always drop it after a while. I'm not trying to say that Dark Souls is a bad game, not at all. I think it's amazing, and I understand why some people would even go as far as calling it a masterpiece. But the game just hasn't clicked with me. Now, why am I talking about Dark Souls, you ask? Because I feel like I should mention that Bloodborne didn't get to where it is on its own two legs. It owes a lot to its predecessors. But what I find so fascinating about Bloodborne is the way it went about polishing the previous formula to a near perfect degree. How they did that, you ask? Well, let me tell you about it. There are three main changes to the formula that make Bloodborne what it is. Number 1, trick weapons. Number 2, the removal of shields. And most importantly, in my opinion, number 3, the rally mechanic. And the reason why I think FromSoft made these changes is because I think they had two major ideas in mind while making Bloodborne. And those two are a faster paced flow and aggression. If you look back at the big three changes with these ideas in mind, I think you can start to see what I mean. First, let's talk about the trick weapons. Now, trick weapons are not really hard to explain, it simply gives each weapon an expanded moveset, which makes all of the weapons more versatile in combat. An easy example would be the Saw Cleaver, which in its main closed form is very fast and usually safe, but has very bad range. Now, in its second open form, it's way slower, but the range has been improved. But Johnny, you could say, in Dark Souls, weapons technically also have expanded movesets if you use them with two hands. But the problem with that is that Dark Souls two-handed thingy is just mostly, well, cosmetic. Very rarely does wielding a weapon with two hands actually change the way you use it. But with Bloodborne, the change is not just cosmetic. I mean, look at the Bloodletter, which is just a little fucking club at first, but then you impale yourself with it, and it becomes this massive, scary, spiky thing. And then there's Simon's Bowblade, which is kind of in the name, but it's a bow or a blade. I mean, how versatile is that? Now, be honest, do you want to fucking kill me with a sword, a club, or a fucking pizza cutter? Or if you don't like pizza that much, you can go like, this is a chicken. But back to versatility, I think one of the best examples is the Hunter's Axe, which looks almost exactly the same in both forms, and it's not as scary looking as the other weapons, but it becomes a completely different beast in its two-handed mode. But what ties all of this together is the transform attacks. What are those shits? Well, you see, while attacking or dodging, you can press L1 and do an attack that'll not only deal a lot of damage, but will also change to the other form. So what this means is that you don't really have to take a step back from the current battle, or well, interrupt the pace of the game at all. If you want to switch to the other form mid-battle, you can just R1 L1 or sidestep L1. Or you can just immediately press L1 again and go right back. So a brief summary of what I was trying to say is that trick weapons are amazing because pretty much every weapon comes with two movesets that are usually widely different from each other, and that you can swap between them seamlessly thanks to the transform attacks, and all of this greatly contributes to the flow I was talking about. Now, I was originally gonna attempt and explain why removing shields help both the flow of the game and aggression, but it's extremely self-explanatory, and I'd like to direct you to H-Bomber Guy in case you wanted a more in-depth analysis of why yeeting the shields was such a good idea. And most importantly, rally. I'm having a hard time expressing why this mechanic is so good, but if I had to boil it down to something, I'd say it's because Souls games aren't very forgiving and are usually very open about wanting to kill you, often just getting you with cheap hits or even deaths, but Bloodborne makes the getting hit part into an opportunity to reward the player because Bloodborne introduced rally, which is this little orange thing that appears in your health bar when you get hit. And what that basically means is that after getting hit, you're giving an opportunity to get the health back by attacking them back, but at the same time, you risk losing even more health. And this mechanic is extremely rewarding because first of all, healing items in this game are finite, so every bit of health you get back matters. And second, it encourages you to again be more aggressive, and it actively keeps up the pace of each individual encounter by incentivizing you to go in and staying in the fight rather than getting out and breaking the flow. And it also rewards players who can analyze a situation quickly and act upon it, because most of the time you'll have to determine a lot of things on the spot. Like, do you even have time to take your health back? Should you commit an attack now and risk getting hit? Or should you wait until the enemy attacks, giving you a window to get in, but at the same time wasting time because you're counting on the enemy making a move? And not only that, but thanks to rallying, getting hit, dying, or just failing at stuff is way less frustrating than in previous titles. Because it always gives you a second chance, and that really drives the point home that if you die, it's your fault. But can you let me ramble on for a bit? Okay, thank you. I love this game. I love this game a lot. I love the character design, I love the world building, I love the lore, I love the combat, I love everything. It just comes together to make this absolutely amazing game. But there is one thing that's been keeping me from replaying it as much as I would if it wasn't there. And that thing sucks fucking gorilla dick. So let me tell you about it. The Chalice Dungeons. In case you don't know what they are pretty much a set of rooms that get shuffled around, either by the developers or they're randomly put together. The ones designed by the developers are the normal ones, and the ones that are randomly put together are the root chalices. But both are pretty much the exact same because both of them use the exact same set of rooms, and this sucks because they're both picking from an extremely small pool of rooms, making it even more repetitive. But I actually had to rewrite a part of the script because after getting through all of the Chalice Dungeons, I'm a bit more fond of them, but I still think that they suck dick, and they should definitely be done better if there ever is a Bloodborne 2. But there is one thing the Chalice Dungeons did that I'm grateful for, and that is that it helped me realize just how thoughtfully designed all of the other areas in the game are. But there is one specific area that I want to talk about, and that is Central Yharnam. Central Yharnam is the first area of the game, and it's in my personal opinion one of the most thoughtfully designed areas in a video game, and sets up the tone and the pace of the game perfectly. Now, since I don't want to drag this section out, I'll get into the enemies and enemy placement very briefly. All of the enemies you'll find in this area teach you how to approach enemies correctly, in case you had already played the previous titles and had preconceptions on how to approach them, and to teach new players the basics of combat. And even though it is supposed to be a relatively easier area compared to the later ones in the game, all of the enemies here have very deceptive moves as far as when they will actually either start or end an attack. So it encourages the player to observe an enemy's moveset before attacking, which will be an invaluable skill later on. And second, their placement is brilliant. I was originally gonna take like 2 hours explaining why each of these enemy placements and each movesets are amazing and how all of them complement each other, but again, that would take like 2 hours, so I'll leave that for another video. But anyways, instead of talking about enemy placement, let's talk about the area layout, because that's the real genius part about Central Yharnam. Now, after you get past the first road bump in the game, which is this giant group of enemies, which... Okay, let me just talk about them for a second, because before the game lets you start exploring freely, they want to make sure you're actually familiar with the combat system and enemy behavior. And so they put this giant mob in front of you, which has a lot of ways to approach it, but all of them leave the player feeling like they're getting the hang of things at least a bit more than before. But anyways, after getting here, you will always have at least 2 paths to take for the rest of the area. For example, from here you can keep going on normally to the bridge, or if you actually pay attention, you'll notice that you can drop here and get to these dog cages. But just from the bridge, you can drop down to the sewers through a somewhat hidden path, or opening the shortcut by going through this house. But wait, let's not get too far ahead. Let's say you actually found the hidden path and you got here earlier. From here you can either go straight and get to the house and the bridge, or take a right and get to the sewers. But before you do that, you have another choice. You can either go downstairs or roll here and get up here with the big boys. And then you can either drop straight to the sewers or stay up here. No matter which way you go, you'll end up here, giving you a choice between taking these stairs and oh look, you're back here. Or if you kept going down the sewers, you can take the ladder and open the second shortcut, or even cross the bridge, go down the stairs and do this to the pig.
You gotta stick your fist up his ass.
Yeah, I will not comment on that. But at this point, I think you can see what I mean about this area. It makes it so fun to go through again and again because of the amount of freedom it gives you from the very beginning. And yeah, while later areas aren't as interconnected as Central Yharnam, they still carry this freedom mindset in their designs, to some degree at least. But they all have something cool or unique to each of them, like this shit I found in this area. And, well, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. But I have something more important to say regarding the future of this channel. So first of all, while I did put a lot of time into this video, even if it doesn't show, this was more than anything else a test, because right now, the thing I want the most is experience, and from now on I think I'll be able to get at least 1 or 2 videos per month. Because, well, I feel like I'm getting the hang of things a bit better now. So the only thing I want to ask of you, at the moment at least, is that you don't completely judge me based on this video. Right now I'm very much open to criticism and I'm genuinely excited to get better at this. So yeah, please stick around because I have a lot more that I want to do here. And so basically what I'm trying to say here is that the first video always sucks dick. But from now on I'll take all I've learned while making this video and hopefully improve. But yeah, that's it. I'll see you next time when I review Death Stranding. See you later, virgins.
It doesn't matter now what happened.